So I was just listening to a podcast. It's called Your Undivided Attention. Here it is. And this is what it looks like. All right. So Center for Humane Technology is the organization that created this. You may have seen the documentary called Social Dilemma on Netflix from several years ago. It was a really, really good documentary. So you should check it out if you haven't seen it. But the guy Tristan Harris, not Tristan, but Tristan, he was on The Daily Show, and I watched a 20-minute interview with him yesterday, and he hasn't been on my radar for multiple years. I feel like, or maybe I think he was on an episode of a different podcast, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this guy. Like, I wonder what he's doing. But essentially, Center for Humane Technology is like a organization, from my understanding, that is motivated on sharing and spreading information, positive information about how we need to be careful with technology. And he talked about social media a lot, but now the turn is, talking about AI. And I don't know, it's an area that I'm so passionate about because I use it almost every day. I use ChatGPT all the time. And I feel like on some areas, it's fantastic for YouTube content creation and things like that. Coming up with titles and, just automating certain things that I feel like are good to be automated. But then on the other end, it's not that, right? Like, doing things that I should be doing, I think. And I think part of the challenge is being able to like draw the line and say, all right, this is something that makes sense for AI to help me with, and this is something that maybe doesn't make sense. But I went ahead and started checking out this podcast, and one of the specific episodes is called Rethinking School in the Age of AI. And two things so far, I'm only like actually just about halfway done with the episode, but two things really, really moved me. One of them, I'm just going to paraphrase, but one of the women who was a guest on here talked about the different types of students in schools. And she talked about how most kids like school. They like seeing their friends. They like going to school, but they don't like what they do at school. They don't like the actual stuff that they're learning per se. And she talked about how these different types of schools, or different types of students, many of them are coasting. They do just enough to get by. Like, a lot of students are that. Then some percentage of students are like the so-called overachievers, right? The ones who are just determined to do fantastic in school and to get that gold star and to strive for perfection in school. And she said that for a very long time, a lot of people, like society and, most people thought that was like the apex. That was the highest you can get in terms of, I forget the term she used, but something like the Explore Mountain, something like that. It's like the highest you can get. But 20 years of research said that that's not true, right? Those students who are striving for greatness to that level are oftentimes fragile. Again, this is her words. I'm going to do my own research later. Are fragile, and there's negativity that comes with that type of focus for children, right? So that was what she said. And then she talked about the other group of students who I'm sure I didn't talk about yet, but the ones that I'm sure you're thinking of, like the ones who are class clowns, skipping school, missing homework, doing all those things. And she said that these are the type of kids who they're doing these things because it's their way of saying, this is not working for me. Hang on one sec. My wife is calling. Hey, babe, I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back later? Is everything okay?
Yeah, just checking in how everybody did.
All right, I'll call you later.
All right, bye.
Bye. This stays in the video. And she said that those are the kids that oftentimes, when given the opportunity to explore more and to lean into the stuff that they're interested in, and et cetera, these are the ones who ultimately are the most adaptable and are the most capable of, taking in information the way that I think makes a lot more sense for students. And the reason this resonated with me, I had to I didn't pull over, but I felt like I wanted to pull over in the car and say to myself, my goodness, Like I had a student who I taught fifth, sixth, and seventh grade math, and I had a student who the day before the first day of school, the fourth grade math teacher was told to come to my room and like look at my class roster of fifth grade math students and like, give me some tips and, first year teaching. So he was a great guy. I chatted with him. He's like, hey, you have a great group of kids here. He's like, just watch out for these two kids. If you sit them next to each other, they'll derail the class or class clowns, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I remember going into class, taking attendance, and calling their names and be like, oh, okay, so these two. I was like, all right, so these are the two I need to watch out for. But what ended up happening is these kids, specifically one of them, they were both great kids, and I had great relationships with them and their families, et cetera, et cetera. But specifically one of them, I gave both of them the opportunity, but one of them really grabbed this opportunity to explore and to chat with me during recess and during, dismissal and all these things. And I hope he's doing well. He must be in like ninth or 10th grade now. That was about 5 years ago, right? Yeah, probably 10th grade. I hope he's doing well. I really do. But he just really excelled that year. I think in part due to me and my interaction with him and my willingness to just allow him to be himself and not, stifle him and his creativity and stuff. So that was something that really resonated. And then the other thing I want to talk about really quick is a few minutes after that, the question about, EdTech, education and technology. Is it a bad thing? Is it an evil thing that we have iPads and Chromebooks and all this stuff and now AI and all this? So some elements of it are bad. Some elements of it are not as helpful as you would expect. Like they talked about the great promise in EdTech is being able to have some form of adaptability with what students are learning and let students dive deeper into the things that they are interested in. That's not what we see right now that much, right? It's like something that's more helpful to to grade things easier, right? Grade stuff digitally versus on paper. So like things like that are real, right? Because maybe that frees teachers up to, from other more important things or whatever. But I'm still curious about that, being able to dig deeper into the things that they're interested in. But after that, they talked about VR. And VR is very important to me because that's what I do. I do a lot of contract work with a company called Trivium right now. And VR headsets and these simulations in STEM and in these different trade schools, plumbing and carpentry and agriculture and fashion and culinary and all this stuff. It's a really, really exciting gig. And I was so moved because she talked about a university introduction to biology course, and the course was not doing well. Students were not engaging with it, etc. But they introduced a VR 10 minutes after like the mini lesson was done within the lecture. Throw this VR headset on and now you're able to explore this concept that you just learned. And I see it all the time. I talk to potential customers about this with my role here, and it is I felt that it's a very, very, very strong value add, especially for, we're talking for like, college level and like high school level stuff, like students. These are the ones that we're talking about over here. But even middle school, for example, like giving them an opportunity to explore different trades or explore virtually these different concepts that you're learning in class, like meeting them where they're at, I think is a major, major, major play. And so just knowing that, but then having these very intelligent and very intelligent people who study this stuff kind of reinforce it made me feel excited. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Hopefully this was, resonated with some of you, and look forward to seeing you on the next video.